Welcome to Meet the Candidates 2022, a voter education program brought to you by the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce. My name is Tim Zunker, and I'm the president with the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. Our hope is that these candidate interviews and profiles will help you, the voter, understand your choices when it comes to the 2022 elections. We ask voters to arm themselves with information necessary to make educated choices and to make casting your vote a priority. Please visit the Shakopee Chamber website at shakopee.org to find more information about the upcoming election. At this time, I'd like to introduce Brendan Van Alstyne, who is running for Minnesota State Representative District 54B. Brendan, thank you for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
Thank you. Well, I am a 23-year-old union mechanic. I work at a dairy factory, and I've kind of always been interested in politics, especially watching the presidential elections of 2016, 2020. It became pretty apparent that our government is not representing the people. And it is my desire to get involved in such a way that I can figure out how to remedy the structural foundational problems that prevent the people's will from being carried out. And I have definitely learned a lot by running. I am very happy for this opportunity and grateful that the people of Prior Lake and Jordan and Shakopee and all the other smaller areas that I'm kind of representing have given me this opportunity. And it is my hope that while in office, I will be able to enact change that will make it so the people's will is the priority rather than corporate interests or any other special interests.
Great. Thank you, Brendan. We'll get started with questions. If you could write, sign, and pass 3 laws today, what would they be and why?
Well, the number one thing that would be on the top of my priority list would be overturning Citizens United and getting money out of politics. That is practically the slogan of my campaign. The way that our campaign finance laws works prevents normal people from having a real influence on who gets elected. We have our votes, but at the end of the day, it seems more and more that the campaigns that are able to spend the most money are the ones that win. And most of the money these days comes from super PACs, special interests, lobbyists, that kind of thing. So changing that would be the most important thing we can do to make sure that the people's will starts being represented. The second thing that I would love to see happen, probably won't in this term, but down the road, I would love to see direct democracy initiatives. I don't believe that any given representative has the power to represent people better than the people can represent themselves. And giving people their power back is the best way to make sure our government actually works for the people. So if we have initiatives where individuals are able to vote on the policies that they themselves believe in, then that'll go a long way towards making sure that our government functions as it is supposed to. And my final policy that I'd love to see happen would be universal basic needs. If our government made sure that people had guaranteed access to the needs that they have, like housing, transportation, food, education, healthcare, these are the basic foundation blocks of, the economic opportunity that people have. And without these, people aren't able to advance in life in the way that they want to. And in my opinion, that's kind of what America's all about. It's the land of opportunity. So we need to make sure that people have what they need to be able to secure their opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Brendan. Coming out of the pandemic, businesses are being affected by issues including workforce shortages. What policies would you support in the next legislative session to help alleviate this issue?
Well, I have a great deal of sympathy for small businesses, not quite so much for big businesses. I think that one of the biggest things we could do is to crack down on the anti-competitive practices of big businesses like Amazon, Starbucks, these unionization efforts where they try to, in my opinion, illegally, they're able to skirt around the law, but I think it's illegal what they're doing to try to prevent these unionization efforts. So if we crack down on that more, provide people with better economic opportunities, by possibly raising the minimum wage or offering subsidies to small businesses to make sure that they can compete with these bigger businesses, then I think that people will be a lot more inclined to re-enter the workforce. Because if our jobs aren't paying enough to make it worth it, then of course nobody's going to want to work. We got to make sure that the jobs are actually jobs worth having. And I think that the way to do that is by pushing unions, increasing wages, making sure benefits are good, bringing us back up to the standard of living that we've enjoyed for the past few decades, but that has been slowly eroded over the past however many years.
Great. Thank you, Brendan. According to the Office of Minnesota Budget and Management, the general fund budgetary balance for fiscal year 2022-2023 is projected to be over $7 billion. In fiscal year 2024-2025, it is projected to be over $12 billion. What policies would you propose or support in the next legislative session considering these budget surplus projections?
Well, I definitely think that if we're planning on spending that money rather than giving it back to the people, and personally I am in favor of distributing it to those who are most in need, those at the bottom of the tax bracket who would benefit most from receiving some checks. But to spend that money wisely, we need to invest in economic opportunities. That's kind of the name of the game, isn't it? If we invest in trade schools like what I went to that enable people to go get jobs that pay a decent wage and that don't cost quite so much as the traditional four-year colleges, so they're not trapped in debt. And if you invest in things like transportation infrastructure, public transit, healthcare, even K through 12 education, then we will see great returns on that money that's being spent, and it'll boost our economy, it'll boost the opportunities that individuals have, and I think is the best way that we can use that money.
Great. Thank you, Brendan. According to the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, there were roughly 395 violent crimes for every 100,000 residents in 2021 in the 7-county metro region, which is a 24% increase over 2020 levels. What are the best solutions to lower the crime rate, not only in the 7-county metro area, but throughout Minnesota?
Sure. Well, violent crime, I think, is kind of the pinnacle of the whole crime issue. I think that the way that we're handling crime in this country and in this state is much worse than other models that we can see throughout Europe and the rest of the Western world. I think that the first thing we would need to do is to fully legalize marijuana, because we are currently wasting tremendous amounts of police and law enforcement resources going after something that doesn't matter at the end of the day. And if we do that, then we can redirect those resources to going after the crimes that actually do matter. And the second thing that I think would be extremely important is community policing. I think that if any policies that we enact aren't going to be successful without trust between communities and the police forces within those communities. And the best way to do that is bringing the police, local leaders, community members, business leaders, all these people together to find the root causes of these problems and to solve them at a community level rather than just going out there with squad cars only ever responding to crimes after they've happened. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that.
Great. Thank you, Brendan. What would your plan be to help with healthcare costs for businesses and families?
Healthcare is one of the big things that I think is a big inhibitor to small businesses that makes it extremely difficult for them to compete with larger businesses. My brother is a small business owner, and if he can't provide a healthcare package to his employees, then how is he supposed to find anyone who relies on healthcare? And I think that at this point in time, we have seen that the universal healthcare models in countries all around the world are hugely successful and provide healthcare at much lower costs than what we have here in the United States. And what I would like to see is a universal healthcare deal for Minnesota, hopefully for the rest of the country to follow along as well. But if we are able to provide healthcare for all of our citizens outside of the insurance companies whose only job is to say, no, you can't get the healthcare you need, and to extract money from those who are trying to make sure that their lives are increasing in quality, and to the employers that are providing jobs for people, then that's something that employers don't have to worry nearly as much about. It's something that small businesses don't have to worry about whether or not they can compete with these multi-billion-dollar businesses in providing healthcare. And it solves all of the problems with our healthcare system the way that it currently is.
Great. Thank you, Brendan. And do you support passage of sports betting in Minnesota? And if so, what would be the best way to implement?
I do support the passage of sports betting. I don't think that the government really has the right to moralize and to say what is wrong or what is right when it comes to non-harmful things like gambling. The way that we currently handle gambling in this country and in this state is by giving the native tribes the land and the ability to control the casinos as a form of reparation for the fact that it was us who came and took the land and kicked them off of it. And I have a great deal of respect for the native tribes, and what I would want to see is the continuation of that practice, where if we have any sports betting, then we make sure that it is them who benefit from it most. So if you want to do that through the casinos specifically, or if we want to decentralize it and give them access to internet resources that'll enable them to do sports betting, I think those are good options to explore.
Great. Thank you, Brendan. Now, if you'd like to give your closing statement and message to the voters.
Sure. Well, fundamentally, I think that the problem in this country is that the government does not represent the people. And for the most part, it is corporate interests, special interests, lobbyists who fund the campaigns of candidates and get them elected, that their interests are the only ones that are listened to. And we can see that play out at the state level, federal level, all throughout the country. So that is a extremely difficult problem to overcome. And very rarely are there candidates that actually care about overcoming that problem. Obviously, that's something that is near and dear to my heart. And I think that if we want to solve that, then traditional electoral politics are not the way. Voting for any individual candidate and hoping that they're going to go in and solve all these problems, they can't. If I get into office, the party will come to me and they'll give me the deal of letting go of my morals so that I can get more power and direct the party better. That's not the way to do politics. So I guess my message to the voters is participate. Go out, meet your neighbors, get involved in local politics, try to figure out what the problems are in your own community and solve them yourself. If you want to see problems solved in this state, then do it yourself. Put in the effort and you will see tenfold returns on what effort you put into it.
Thank you. And again, the views expressed in these interviews are those of the candidates, not those of the Chamber and Visitors Bureau. The Chamber is sponsoring these events as a service to the community and has gone to great lengths to ensure the objectivity. The Chamber does not endorse any candidates, but seeks to provide you, the citizens and voters of Shakopee, with the information you need to make an informed choice. The Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau extends a sincere thank you to the candidates. We appreciate your time and service to our community by running for office. You are performing an important service to us all. Again, thank you for joining us for this edition of Meet the Candidates 2022. Please join us September 29th at River Valley Church for our candidate forum. Please visit the Shakopee Chamber website at shakopee.org for more information. Thank you. Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you.